really excited to bring on our next guest. I've known her for quite a while. She started her career, actually, in my hometown of Great Falls, Montana, in her broadcasting, and it's taken her all over the country. She's now here in Los Angeles covering the NFL for ESPN. The only issue is she is a Husky. That's the only thing that's. But I thought since we had Pat Chun on and I'm a Cougar, we had to kind of
fair and balanced.
Even the scales a little bit by bringing on a former Husky. Well, welcome to the show, Lindsey Thiry from ESPN. Hey, Lindsey, how you doing?
Happy to join you, even though you're a Coug, Ryan.
Yeah, it's a tough life to live. I understand. You've kind of made the jump more onto the side of the Chargers this year, but you were front and center for the Rams run to the Super Bowl a year ago. This offseason's been pretty quiet. I would argue it's been pretty quiet for a team that just won the Super Bowl, right? They extended Matthew Stafford. They extended Sean McVay. But this team added some pieces that I think are going to be difference makers for a team trying to repeat as Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, no doubt. The probably biggest need that they needed going into the offseason, biggest need they needed, that's a smart one, had to be Allen Robinson, right? OBJ out there as a free agent. They couldn't keep Robert Woods around. So they have another target for Matthew Stafford. Obviously, that's going to be really important going into the season. Cooper Kupp can do a lot. He can't do absolutely everything. So that's going to be really interesting to watch that connection. Also this year, it's going to be really interesting to see. I think a lot of people forgot that they drafted Tutu Atwell last year in the second round. So it'll be really interesting to see how he pans out as a target for Matthew Stafford as well.
OBJ's name keeps getting kind of brought up from time to time. It just floated around. He was an incredible asset to this team, and if he doesn't get hurt in the Super Bowl, they probably, I think, dominate that Cincinnati Bengals team. Is there Sean McVay and that organization kind of keeping the dialogue open in case they need something, especially when he gets healthy?
Yeah, absolutely. Sean McVay has kind of openly campaigned at some points, mentioning OBJ. Obviously, he crashed Sean McVay's wedding this summer, so that was kind of something notable. But at the end of the day, right, OBJ probably wants to go where he wants to get paid. Keeping an eye on Von Miller. He did a little recruiting to OBJ when he came to the Rams. Now Von's in Buffalo. He's put out a few recruiting notes there to have him join the Bills. So it's going to be really interesting where OBJ eventually lands, if the Rams can maybe get a deal done for him sooner than anybody else who might be in the receiver market.
All right, Matthew Stafford's elbow has been a conversation piece this summer, getting ready for camp and in camp. What are we to make of that, and how has he come along here the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I make quite a bit of it. Matthew Stafford's a guy who's played through a lot of injuries, and he never lets on that anything is hurt. I remember last season very pointedly saying, are you okay? And he said, I'm totally fine. And I asked him if he'd ever admit to not being fine. He goes, yeah, probably not. Most definitely not. So the fact that Sean McVay said that the elbow was bothering him, I think is worrisome. Obviously, the Rams have him on a program to try to mitigate that. By all accounts, when he's been out there throwing, it's looked great. But you probably would be safe to be concerned about, the wear and tear over the span of a season and what that could do to an elbow that's already kind of on a pitch count.
We're speaking with Lindsey Thiry, ESPN NFL reporter, really based around the LA programs here in Los Angeles. Let's move to the other sideline of SoFi Stadium and my former team, the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Justin Herbert has a real chance to vie for an MVP and get his team to a place. He could be the best quarterback in all the NFL after the season's over. How have you seen him develop this offseason? And camps just seems so much more simplified and easy for him this year. It just looks like he's in full control of everything he's got going on.
Definitely, you said it. He just kind of walks around with confidence, with poise, and why wouldn't you after the season he had? To see how he's kind of taking command of this offense. There's been a few times that at practice, some of the new additions maybe aren't running the right routes, aren't in the right places, and Justin has no problem telling them where they need to be and making sure that they don't make the same mistake twice. Watching him throw a football up close as often as I have now at training camp has been, I hate to sound corny, but a thing of beauty. This guy can put the ball anywhere. He always places it perfectly for his receivers, just out of the reach of the DBs. and his connection with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams appears to be really great. They added DeAndre Carter, who might be a guy who can make a breakaway down the field, mostly as a return specialist, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch him maybe in some plays on offense as well. But Justin Herbert has great command of his offense, and even his veteran center, Corey Linsley, said that where he used to have to make more suggestions to Justin as a young QB, Justin's kind of stepping in and knows the protections, knows what he's seeing across the line. So I think it's going to be a really exciting season for him. I
agree with you. I think he's ripe for taking over this league as the new face at the quarterback position. The changes on the defensive side of the football, I think, are what makes this team a real danger to a lot of other people because of the addition of Khalil Mack. I think a lot of people thought maybe because of the injuries in Chicago, the way they were willing to get rid of him with the trade, and then adding Jackson at the corner just makes this a team that is dangerous for a lot of people. And so speak to the defensive changes and how that's going to build this team back.
Yeah, Brandon Staley didn't mince words apparently this offseason, let them know we have a really good team, but we aren't good enough on defense to get where we need to go. So that's really where they made the significant upgrades this offseason, made a trade that I don't know historically that Tom Telesco would have made. They go pick up a free agent signing in J.C. Jackson, which is also very aggressive by the kind of previous Chargers way of doing things. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, I don't know there's many people out there that wouldn't say that they're among the top pass rushing duos out there, even as Khalil Mack tries to come off that injury that limited him to 7 games last season. Those two guys have been really fun to watch throughout camp. I mean, they're always together, whether it's taking a knee on the sideline, whether it's just kind of going over things when they're going through position group drills. And Khalil Mack kind of described it to me what they have. I mean, he's a guy who just wants to get out after the quarterback no matter how possible. And Joey Bosa is a guy who he described more of a technician. He wants to get after the tackle in order to get to the quarterback. So he said they have really complementary styles but do it completely different. So they're both kind of learning some stuff from each other. And Joey, for his part, said to have a competitor like Khalil out there every day, it's making him that much better too.
Derwin James, right? Early in camp, the conversation is how the extension is going to go. If I'm not mistaken, there hasn't been an extension or a new contract there. He was doing the little hold-in part. What's the situation there, and where is the team at with Derwin James?
Yeah, you're definitely not mistaken. There's a hold-in situation. It has to be like the friendliest contract situation I've ever seen where the player's not actually out on the field. I mean, Derwin James is there every day. He goes through walkthrough, then he goes to another field, does some agility work, walks by reporters, says, hey, how's it going? He's out there with his teammates. So there's nothing kind of hostile about any of this, but he does not have a new contract in hand and isn't going to be out there practicing until he does. At the open of camp, everyone seemed pretty calm about it. Coaches, it's going to get done. As camp has worn on, there's, I believe, only 6 practices left, maybe 5, including joint practices coming up against the Cowboys. You kind of sense an increase in urgency, like, okay, we need to get this Derwin deal done. We have an entirely kind of new set of defensive personnel, and Derwin, as his teammate said, is really the heart of the defense and the heart of the team. And while practices have been pretty intense, I think that they are missing something out there. You can't help but think, well, who's the vocal guy? Who's the guy that's really amping this defense up, especially in the secondary? And it's Derwin James. So I think it's been a noticeable absence throughout training camp. And my sense is, in asking Brandon Staley about it daily, he's getting pretty eager, if not anxious, to get Derwin back out there on the field.
When do you think, Lindsey, that this starts to become, a necessity? Like, we got to get this done. Are they just far apart on some things, or it seems like it's been kept pretty quiet too in terms of the negotiations? But what at some point do they say, hey, we have to move on this, or we're gonna ruin something that has a real good chance of being special this year?
Yeah, well, when you look at it, the Chargers, I mean, their first week of the season, that schedule's not for the faint of heart, right? They open against the Raiders, and then 5 days later on a Thursday night, they're going to go to Kansas City and get the Chiefs. So you probably would like to have Derwin available to practice at least for a full week, if not 2 full weeks. So we can obviously just kind of get his football legs under him, so to speak, and then get into the game planning, because they're going to be cramming to have two division matchups right off the bat. So if you're the Chargers, you're you're like just starting to feel anxious that you need to get this done. And kind of what I've been told about just Derwin and his character, he's probably a guy that at some point is going to say, like, let's just get this done. He loves football so much. Obviously, these guys all want to get paid, all deserve what they want on some degree. But from my understanding on how both sides are playing it will get done before the season. It's just a matter of whether Brandon Staley has Derwin out there enough to feel super confident about the game plan with two division opponents in 5 days.
We're speaking with Lindsey Thiry, ESPN reporter. Just wanted to tell you congratulations on the baby, and just, who would have thought? I don't know what it was now, just over 10 years ago. In Great Falls, Montana. We're both in Los Angeles doing some fun things with a neat platform. So congratulations to you. Have a great season covering the NFL for ESPN.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
You bet. Lindsey Thiry, everybody, ESPN NFL writer and reporter, talking all things Rams and Chargers.